This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm, and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be at ease, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, or omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be at ease, let none deceive another, or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, free from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world.
All right, Ajahn, over to you, and thank you.
Great, thank you, Chris. Okay, so with meditation, what are we doing and why and where? So as all of you, all the old-timers within the meditation fraternity have a good emotional sense for, especially, if you've been practicing for 5-10 years, you should have quite a good sense, especially your emotional intelligence, why you practice what we do, and have a sense for how to work with the practice in different ways, because meditation is very, very much emotionally based. It's very fluid and it's very changeable, and it's very much a feely practice. You have to feel your way with the meditation that one does if you have time, on a daily basis, in relation with balance with the commitments that you've got. But in essence, that one's emotional intelligence gets polished and becomes more sharp and more aware over time, because you're going to go through many feelings, thousands, 10,000, 100,000 different emotions, mind states, reactions and responses. So you really have to pay a lot of attention to one's emotional framework, because this will be, your feelings are the key to your life. They move, your feelings essentially direct the whole course of your life, the direction of your life, and it's largely behind almost everything you do. So it doesn't matter. Their emotions can be very, very subtle, or they may be highly cerebral. They could be, as an example, I mean a really wild example come up, even people who are mentally disturbed, both in the intermediate to extreme level. Your emotions will still drive your behaviour as a human being. But for mainstream people, you've got to get a sense for where you are emotionally, and so as one develops the meditation, we're making, in a nutshell, developing peace and developing wisdom. You have to pay attention to one's feelings on a regular basis, because that's where the key is. That's where you achieve success in meditation over the years. But the bottom line is that after especially for raw beginners, maybe after 12 months, you should start to get a sense for where you're at with the practice. But it's only the beginning point. It might be 5 years, it might be 10 years before you really get a sense for how to work with yourself as a person, and how to make adjustments to make, because meditation is very, very sophisticated. When we're working with an object, it can be, maybe, we're simplifying the mind. We're trying to calm ourselves emotionally. We're trying to minimise the level of thinking that we go through on a mind experience level. But your feelings essentially are driving your thinking process. So what you feel is far more important than what you think, because your feelings will be behind every move you make, no matter how smart you are, how simple you are, how disturbed you are, how sane you are, how emotionally intense or how emotionally calm or subtle. Your feelings will drive your experience as a human being, and they are behind absolutely everything. It's not until you actually reach the enlightenment stages where you really develop very, very refined human emotions which transcend the normal human emotions that we have. So in essence, that same principle, your emotional intelligence and your ability to understand oneself, and your ability to work with feelings and to make to make adjustments with the meditation over time will determine the success that you have over 10 to 20 years. And so we had as an example, because I have to bring in sort of new material for people to reflect on. It might be slightly provocative, so we had right up to this point. We're up to about 3 monks we've lost. We're losing 3 monks very, very shortly, and sometimes the childhood can be heavy, personal experience can be heavy. But it's the same thing. All of you are well aware just how challenging lay life is, the cost of living, the level of how demanding, everything else. And why would you want to go back to that? It's not a judgment in any way, but all of us are very well aware just how challenging the lay fraternity is. So, the monks and nuns' life, it's very privileged. It's very well supported. Our lay community are very, very decent, very supportive, very, very pleasant people. So why would you want to go back to a very challenging environment? But just that key principle again, it's how you feel. That's how you feel about your life overall, monastic life, your lay perspective, your childhood. So even, it can be a lot of heavy stuff going on, but the bottom line is how you feel about your life, how you feel about yourself as a person. This is a key principle. But with all of us, emotional intelligence, it's quite important. It's the ability to work with feelings and how to make changes, the way you respond. There could be things like even like resentment, anger, jealousy. It could be things like love, consuming love for another person, obsessive love, the inability to let go. Because the thing is, the relationships that you have with other people have essentially endured over lifetimes. Mum and dad, one's sons and daughters, close friends. You're looking at multiple lifetime relationships with these persons, and you can't underestimate this. So if you have maybe for me to work and support my mother for 3 years up to this point is absolutely nothing. It's just, it can be slightly challenging, but it's absolutely nothing when you're looking at the grand scheme of things. Her stuff, it'll take me 4 years to settle all her stuff. But the bottom line is, parents, they give birth to you, they raise you, and they may be supporting you up to the day you leave the family home. 30 years, even when you're 50, you're still being supported. So, your human, emotional relationships with those people who are close to you are not to be underestimated, because you're looking at multiple lifetimes. So that key thing again, one has to learn emotionally. One has to teach oneself. You have to look at your strengths and weaknesses. How when you're trying to get good results with meditation, looking at your strengths, looking at your weaknesses, looking at ways to sort of polish and refine emotion. If I'm attached to anything, if I have some underlying condition with someone, it can be absolutely anything on any level. How do I work with that that feeling? And I mean, these days, I have two main practices that I do right now, and that's the recollection of death. And I can do this. I can work with this without any difficulty whatsoever. I don't go absolutely insane with this and do it for like 30 minutes, 45. I know exactly. As soon as you do a meditation practice and you can feel it's not working for you, you can feel it's starting to get a bit intense, a bit negative, a bit unhappy, you have to make adjustments. And this is a key thing with the practitioners. You're looking at a level of skill. So on the samatha side, you've got specific meditation objects. I've got two. That's recollection of death, and it's the anicca sanya, it's the perception of changeability with 1,001 things. And that's all I do these days, and it gets the best results I've ever seen at this point in time, only for me, not for everyone. Even when I was on retreat with some of the retreatants, they didn't like this at all. And you've got to be careful with this kind of thing, because it's heavy. It's heavy, it is a little bit heavy, this stuff. But when it comes to tranquilizing the mind, the vast majority of the lay disciples, you can do it for 60 seconds quite safely, and you watch it. You watch the effect, because this will get you peaceful faster than anything I've seen. The anicca sanya, the perception of changeability on absolutely anything inside the mind, anything that you see in nature. Very user-friendly, very safe, very stable, very balanced and emotionally balanced. You won't get too much. You've got to be very, very careful with the death practice. I can do it up to about easily. I can do it 20 minutes, probably 30 minutes max, without any major trouble. Some of our retreatants didn't like it at all. Within several minutes, they start to feel bad. You get a bad reaction, because it's confronting, it's challenging, and it's got the suppressive effect, the ability to get the mind calm very quick. It's very effective, but you still need to be careful. So that's what I do, but without getting distracted, whatever practice that you work with, you need to get to know the practice. You could have one main practice, maybe 2 or 3, but you need to get to know that practice, and you need to polish and refine it and get it to its optimum level. So the two sides, the peaceful, calming, tranquilizing side of the practice, and then your emotionally based wisdom, emotional intelligence, insight and understanding. So in a nutshell, the peaceful, the calm, and then the wisdom and insight. So we'll do the user-friendly techniques. We'll do say like an emotional meditation. We'll do something like feelings based on the breath, and we'll do that for 5 minutes straight. And then we'll do the anicca sanya, which is a very user-friendly practice, and you should be able to see a decent result with this. And the thing is that this anicca principle is inherent in absolutely everything. That anicca principle is in absolutely everything you see inside this mind and body, everything that you see in this universe. And when you start to roll this one, and you do it every day, you do even one mantra per minute. I always recommend this with the lay disciples. One mantra every couple of minutes. Can be emotions are changeable, consciousness, perception, moods, absolutely anything you can think of, 1,001 things. And you just do it once every couple of minutes all day, and you will see results with this. And you need these kind of meditation. If you want to really develop this path, you want to get enlightened on this path, you have to spend significant periods of time. But with this particular practice that you can do 6 to 18 hours a day, you can work and think and function at full speed as a professional person, business owner, lawyer, police person. You could be a registered nurse in ICU. You can be a surgeon running a team, a surgical team in operating theatre, which gives you an idea how far you can take this one. But you will see this background samadhi, and you will see the ability, you reflect. So with that background samadhi, you reflect, and you contemplate and understand. So that's just a little technique, but it's incredibly useful for working class people, and that means you're practicing 18 hours a day in a very, very gentle manner, but very effective. All right, so what we're going to do an emotionally based meditation for 5 minutes, and then we're going to do the anicca sanya, the changeability of personal experience, which is inherent right throughout the universe. So what we'll do now, we'll do something like say an easy one, like maybe love on the breath. You can choose the two. Even though, I want you to radiate feelings of love towards the breath, or see the breath as your friend. If you feel that love on the breath is just way beyond your scope, how can I possibly love the breath? For me, it's a breeze. It's just a matter of skill. Anyone, you can love kittens and puppies. You can love the breath. You can love another person. It's just a matter of attitude. It's a way of looking at a certain experience that you have, and then we'll do that for 5 minutes. So it's a matter of generating a feeling and then getting a sense for that feeling. So just close your eyes, get yourself in a comfortable posture, and it's good to have the hands, the ankles crossed and the hands together. But you just sit how you feel comfortable. Because with this particular posture, you draw the energy inwards with the meditation. And I want you to, focus. Might be probably easier to focus around the mouth section. So if you focus on the feelings around the mouth, because this feeling is generated from a high point, it's generated from mind perspective. The mind is usually up in the top. It's usually around the cerebral area. It's usually in the top part of the body. Vast majority of the time it's up top. It tends to be more cerebral located. And then as you focus on the breathing, so focus on the feelings around the mouth. So as we're breathing in and out, focus on the mouth, and you'll feel the breath right there. And then I want you to radiate a feeling of love towards the breath. And if you just can't do this at all, I want you to look at the breath as your friend, as your friend and support with the life that you live. Because without this breath, you're not going to survive very, very long. Within minutes, you'll be in trouble. So close your eyes, maintain a good posture. And then as you're breathing in and out, focus on the breath around the mouth area. You'll feel the breath on the edge of that area. And I want you to radiate a feeling of love. And if love is just too wild, if you feel it's beyond you, just radiate a feeling of friendship and warmth towards the breath as you breathe in and out for the next 5 minutes. So as we generate this feeling of love or friendship towards the breath, just pay attention to the flow of that emotional energy towards the breathing as an experience, because the breath is very, very important to you. It sustains your life. Probably the most important thing you'll ever have as a human being. So as this feeling of love or friendship towards the breath starts to develop, you'll start to feel it flow from the tantian, which is about 1 inch below the belly button. You'll feel that emotional energy flow from that point. Now we're going to move across to the anicca sanya, which is the perception, the way of looking at the changeability of experience and the world around you. And the reason I do this is because it will accelerate and it will increase your insight ability. The Buddha made it very clear, if you want to get enlightened, you want to develop on this path, this is just 3 major principles: the changeability, the emptiness, the unsatisfactoriness of the human condition or any condition of rebirth within samsara. So when you focus on that point, when you emphasize that point of changeability, of experience, both internally within the mind and externally within the world and the universe around us, it increases your awareness of, what would you call it, say the changeable nature of reality. In order to get enlightened on a basic level, there are a number of meditation techniques which will help you break through, but these 3 they are key. They are the core. It's like the tree, the big tree. The changeability, the emptiness, the unsatisfactory nature of rebirth and karma. That is the trunk of the tree, and all those insights which are connected to and flow from those 3 principles. They're the branches, the blossoms, the flowers, the buds, the leaves and twigs. So focusing on that very basic principle will increase your potential for insight knowledge. It will increase your awareness, your sensory and your peripheral awareness, and it will trigger and increase your insight, knowledge and awareness overall, because that principle of changeability is in all things, both internally and externally. Some people may think, how can that possibly get you anywhere? I know that for a fact, because I've been doing this for at least 4 years, and you'll get better results with the meditation, and you'll get increased awareness, sensory awareness, and increased insight knowledge, because you're focusing on this universal principle. Okay, so we're going to make it we won't complicate it too much. We'll start with the mantra for maybe for half the time, and then say like an absolute minimum, say 5-10 minutes, because you need to feel this thing out. 5 to 10 minutes with the mantra, and then we will introduce the breath after that point. So what I want you to do is, we'll start with an easy one, user-friendly, that everyone can relate to. Feelings are changeable. So we split that mantra into 2 syllables, and I want you to do this with big spaces between the words. So as we're breathing out, feelings, breathing in, leave a space, then breathing out a changeable. Breathing in, breathing out feelings, breathing in, breathing out a changeable. So nice big space between the two syllables, and we'll do that for at least 5 minutes, and then for the rest of the time, the other 20 minutes, we'll introduce the breathing after that point, but we'll do it like step by step. So please just get that one rolling, and then just feel it out. Just very relaxed, very spacious. It's all about calming. It's all about making the mind peaceful with this way of looking at your internal world and the world around you. So we will continue with this mantra, but I want you to start doing the breathing meditation with the mantra as a support. That will help to get you peaceful much more quickly. So as you are already aware, focus on the breathing around the mouth section. You'll feel the breathing on the edge, and continue that mantra. Feelings are changeable, big spaces between the words. Do the breathing meditation and that mantra together, and just see how it goes for the rest of the sit. So as you do the mantra and the breathing meditation together, just try to relax emotionally and physically as much as possible. you find that you're still thinking excessively, just stop for roughly at least 20 to 30 seconds and try to understand why you have that particular mind state, why you think the way you do, why you feel the way you do. Because the more you understand anything which comes up in the mind, any attachment, any emotion, any thought process, the more you understand the experience, the mind will relax and let go. You have to teach yourself constantly. The pure mind only knows, it's its only function. But you have to teach yourself in order to understand, to let go. So we're coming towards the end of the meditation. So just look at your approach and see what works for you. I'll ring the bell 3 times. You can open your eyes when you're ready. Do you guys have any questions on the meditation at all?
Yes, Sky, would you like to go ahead with your question?
Yeah, please go
Just
ahead.
a tiny good morning or good evening. when you started the meditation, you mentioned 1 inch below the belly button. And I thought maybe you were going in a chakra direction, or what was the object over there?
So what happens is when you develop any feeling towards the breath, can be absolutely anything, can be the joyful breath, friendly breath, love on the breath, positive breath, beautiful breath. The feeling that you generate, you will feel it actually, the origination point, the location point where that energy flows is from the Tantian. So the chi point, one inch below the belly button, that's where you will feel that energy flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Tantian,
Yep.
like the Qigong, the energy center.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah, virtually, okay. Yeah, that key point. Yep.
That makes sense.
I hope so.
I like the mantra. Yeah, it worked for me. It was really lovely. And then 3/4 of the way, the word feelings, it changed by itself. And my mind must have changed it to breathing. Breathing can change, like something like feelings are changeable, breathing is changeable. And I thought that was interesting how my mind just flipped it without a conscious decision, I didn't do it consciously.
Yeah, if you feel that...
Maybe because it was a similar amount of syllables, but...
Yeah, if you feel it works for you, because the thing is, our personalities are very, very different. The karma is different. So if something works for you quite well, or you can see that it works, that's the way you need to go. Because what works for me will work for you, but only up to a point. So each person has to see what gets good results. So you can experiment with maybe 1 or 2 or 3 different kinds of meditation techniques, but you actually have to see what's the right word? You really need to see results in the long term, because we could be doing this for 5, 10, 20 years or so.
Yeah, the mind always needs a little something different just to switch it up. Because I think my mind gets bored, to sit and do the same. Just a little bit of a different twist can keep the attention. So thank you for that. That was really very enjoyable.
Yeah, no worries at all, Scott. So anyone else have any
Yes,
amazing questions?
Martha, Ajahn, who would like to unmute and ask the question. Would you like to go ahead, Martha? Are you ready?
Yes, I think that was such an interesting thing. Feelings are changeable. Feelings are changeable. Now, I am just fascinated by the fact that of late, I have realized that I think that hate is not. I think anger is changeable. And the reason why I know this is because, and I hope I'm not repeating myself, because I've said this in a meeting recently or 2, and I can't remember where it was, but at any rate, anger does come and go in me. It is transient. But flat out hate is something very different, in that I remember, as, for example, when I got to watch the children being born. It was a peak moment. And I've heard many a man in my professional life, I've worked with lots of families and kids, and also in my personal life, talk about how they never knew what love was until they saw that baby or held that baby or looked in that baby's eyes. And I remember, I already had that feeling anyway, but it was like, holy smokes, peak moment. I can literally still see the baby crowning. I can remember who was there. I remember the tears, and it is a feeling of extreme joy and happiness. and absolute, unbridled, unconditional love. And I enjoyed the meditation that brought that to everyone until I understood what the difference is between anger and hate. I think could be, and the reason Buddha, I think, was the first psychologist who was trying to relieve suffering in this life. And what he came to the conclusion was that if you want to get rid of all sorts of crying, you got to get rid of poverty. And I think maybe that has to do with the fact that when you're down here so oppressed, not probably just due to poverty, but just having no power, there is an everlasting feeling that is always literally in the back of my mind. And I'll never forget who was there when I first felt it, or the people who contribute to it. I remember where I was standing. I remember how I felt, who was at the desk, who was at that desk, who was at that desk, what they said to make me feel that way. And I remember it was a very different feeling. So I think it would be interesting to look at maybe that mood of love changes and that mood of anger changes. But I don't know about hate. It is always there in the back of my mind. And I think that's why the Buddha said there must be a middle way. The caveat about the Buddha, that people don't talk about, is that, yes, he went from zenith to nadir, but he also, I bet he always knew, after, even before he came to the conclusion that you have to have shelter and food and medicine and clothing and people, unless you don't have mature people to be around. Before he even got to that conclusion, through going from everything to nothing to the middle way, he always knew he had a castle to go back to. And that, thankfully, he didn't have to experience the true fear of having nothing, because it's shocking. But I think it would be interesting to see if there was some way to look at that. But I found the meditation to be interesting and helpful. Feelings are changeable, and they are for the most part. But I think that those who don't understand what true hate is.
Yeah, I mean that feeling.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's good input, Martha. Very articulate. Very good assessment. But that business with anger and hate. The person does something, they make you feel bad. For some reason, you get a sense of aversion, dislike. But the bottom line is that, not to underestimate people's human experiences, because they can just endure for like years. A person can be affected 5, 10, 20 odd years. But one of the key principles is you've got to understand the way one feels. Otherwise, you just will never be... you will never be free or relieved of that emotion. And this is the proof in the pudding is, if I have anger towards someone, and and it can go on. I've seen monks, even senior monks, 30 years. They've still got trouble. They've still got trouble with mum and dad, because you're looking at lifetimes of karma with those people who are close to you. They could be people you love, people you hate, enemies. These guys, they're close to you karmically. They're not like strangers. You don't love and hate strangers. That often at all. But it's the people who are close to you. They're the ones who really stimulate one's emotions. So, but the bottom line is, we have 1,001 human emotions, much more, 10,000 human emotions plus. But you need to understand what you're going through, and if we haven't experienced, and that emotion doesn't stop after 10, 20 years, even if it's with mum and dad, it means that you still haven't understood what you're going through completely. There's still remnants, there's still a trace, there's still, that energy is still blocked, it's still inside you. and it's not released, it's not let go, it's not understood. So even though human experience is very, very complicated, it's a key principle. You've really got to understand how you feel. It could be, it could be absolutely anything. It could be 101 things, because that will be the sticking point. That's the test. This is the test. If I give myself an example, if I have resentment or anger towards someone, but not to underestimate, there can be underlying karma. You can have trouble with these people in the past. Monks can have stuff with each other which can persist for 5 years, 10 years, even 15 years. But you've got lifetimes with these people, easily 10, 20, 30 lifetimes with these people. So just don't imagine that you're just going to drop some issue with someone. But the key principle is that you don't do anything to harm that individual. If it's at all possible, you don't do anything to harm oneself. So if you come up against tricky, difficult people, even people sociopathic, narcissistic, could be almost anything. You just keep them at a distance. You don't get involved with them. You don't speak to them. I've seen all the tricks. I worked in mental health. I've seen them all. I've seen many, many, many different types of people. But the quickest, the easiest way to deal with these individuals is you keep them away from you. You keep them at a distance. And if you have stuff inside you which is persisting, you've got to understand what you're going through and why and where and with who and what time. Because as I mentioned, this is the test. If that stuff keeps going and it's still going after 20 years, it means you still have not understood oneself emotionally. The whole kit and caboodle, there's still something there you don't see. It's hidden from you. It's suppressed. It's disguised. You're what's the right word? All those psychological terms you can think of. You're refusing to admit that you really hated your father or you really hated your mother. You can't bear to imagine, oh no, I can't hate my mum, I can't hate my... But deep down you really do, because there's some very, very heavy karma from the past. She could have brutalised you. That person could have brutalised you in the past. You get... I saw something on YouTube, I won't distract too much. A child, a 13-year-old child with a real psychopathic personality brutally murdered his younger sister at 4 years of age. And he stated on a number of occasions, in playing with the child, he would kill that child. So we're talking about real heavy, psychopathy, but I won't distract too much. But you're looking at heavy, serious karma with these people. Why would a 13-year-old young person brutally murder his 4-year-old sister? You're looking at, the mind's conditioned, this key principle, conditioning. Where does it come from? It didn't come from the current life. The little girl is as sweet as a babe. She's completely harmless, never done anything wrong since the day she was born. So why do you get this kind of obscene, extreme behaviour with the older brother? You're looking at karma. You've got to be very, very, very careful with this stuff, because it goes for lifetimes. It's very, very deep. It's very forceful, and you can see some incredible things happen between people. But you just try to work within the best of your ability with this stuff. If these people are not good for you, you keep them away from you. You keep them right away. You may be able to reconcile, get along, this and that. But you're looking at a circle of people. Even as a lay disciple in general society, you're going to have a circle of people you do not get along with at all. But you're looking at karma, really heavy karma, enduring for lifetimes. And this is why you've still got these extreme feelings with these people. This is why you despise them. This is why you don't trust them. You can have a dozen human emotions, but this stuff can endure for lifetimes. So you just try to, as a Buddhist practitioner, with the mindset of the Buddha, how am I going to work with this? Because if you with this kind of thing, even say for example, at an extreme, we're looking at extremes. Even if you had murderous feelings towards one's father, it's that same the Buddhist principle. You have to protect oneself. You have to protect your own parent, the father, even though if he was a drinker, abusive, threatening, basically a very, very bad person. You still have to protect oneself. You still have to protect the parent, because that extreme experience will go on and on and on and on from life to life to life to life. So it's not to be underestimated, the level of force and power behind these states, and you have to consider, when we look at our emotional experience, you've got to consider karma, because some of the stuff, it's just so bizarre, it's so outrageous, it's so extreme, but you still need to be careful. You need to be careful the way you relate to other people, the direction you move in, because every second of the day you're making karma, and this karma has an effect, and it's going to come back on you. So no matter how crazy people are, how disturbed they are, if they play with you, if they screw with you, you don't have to necessarily take care of them, you don't have to fix them up or anything like that. You just keep them at a distance, you try to keep things in a reasonable framework, because if it escalates, if it becomes really, really problematic, these energies won't stop, they'll just go on. They'll just go on for the next 10, 20 lifetimes. So if you run into trouble with people, you've got to remember, this is karma, whether it's fair, not fair, whether it's love, hate, or anything else in between. You have to, you've got to look at the big picture, karma, rebirth, and just, the way you approach things, don't underestimate the level of force and energy and power behind these states, because you can murder family members, you can what's the right word, despise one's mother, for 30, 40 years, you want to dance on her grave, and, really sort of extreme stuff. You hate your mother, you hate your two sisters. Where do these kind of intense, obscene emotions come from when these people have not harmed you at all? So you're looking at crazy, crazy stuff, but there's a reason behind this. It just doesn't come out of nowhere. So as human beings with the Buddhist perspective, you've got to be very, very careful with this stuff. No one gets away with anything. So one has to sort of see the big picture on an ultimate level.
Thank you, Ajahn. Gloria, would you like to unmute and ask a question?
Something amazing for us, Gloria? No?
I feel agitated during meditation because the scenario keeps coming up my mind. It is with my coworker. Like, whenever I was with my coworker, she tends to complain a lot. And then when she complained, because I grew up in a family where everyone complained about everything, but did not do anything to fix things. And then I think I get angry the other day. I didn't say anything because I'm aware that I get triggered and I was angry. And the other day I was thinking about what can I say to her, like, because I want to do it in a right that is in a right speech, like I want to speak in a way that is with goodwill and is beneficial to her, and I did not really want to hurt her feelings, but I don't feel comfortable around her complaint either. And I was thinking about saying that I had no interest in hearing her complain, or like your complaint, the complaint made me feel uncomfortable, but I just don't feel right about these words, and I'm like, what can I say to her? And I just like,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
say,
Yeah, what I would do, when you've got someone who complains and complains and complains, I can almost guarantee there's something in childhood, there's something with mum and dad. I've seen it over and over and over again. When people get really affected, when you see a personality trait which is quite intense and it goes on and on and on for years, I can absolutely almost guarantee it, that because it's so personal and it's intense, and they're sharing the love with other people, this particular amazing emotion, that you'll see it especially with childhood. Mum and dad, you can be 50, 60, 70 years of age and it's still there, and it's still coming up, it's still affecting the person and the people around them. But the bottom line is, if you've got a person like that, really look at her closely and think, well, why is she like that? You can ask her. You can just ask her. Maybe you can choose the time and place. You just be polite. You don't have to necessarily, what's the right word? Be incredibly ingratiating or incredibly loving and kind and supportive. Just ask her politely. Look, I don't understand, why you're complaining so much. Can you tell me what's wrong? Can you tell me what's going on? Just keep it very simple. In a nutshell, you don't have to do any kind of psychological analysis or so much. Just say, look, I hear you complaining. On a regular basis, and I don't understand what you're going through. Can you tell me? Relate on a feely level. Can you tell me what you're going through? Why you feel this need to complain so much? Keep it simple, in a nutshell, emotionally based. Can you tell me why you need to complain so much, so I can understand where you're coming from. It'll help us to get along maybe a little bit better, and then see what she thinks. Because if she feels that you're making an effort to understand where she's coming from, you're not judging, you're not saying, oh God, why don't you just shut up, you're really annoying me. She may feel that she's being heard, that you're making an effort to understand her, you're concerned. You've got a sense for this person. She's suffering. There's a reason behind it, and can you please tell me, why you have it, why you're going through this, why you have this experience. It's not to be underestimated. If mum and dad could have been like this, or they could have been berating and complaining that the child's not good enough, or I want better, I'm dissatisfied with my life. If you really want to, I've seen it over and over and over again. If you really want to understand where people are at, the first people you look for are mum and dad, because they're closer to you than anyone else. And it's this life, it's the current life. And this is the first two people you look for. And then you look for things like drug, alcohol, friends, toxic relationships with former partners, this kind of thing. But mum and dad are not to be underestimated, whatsoever.
thank you so much.
No
I think
trouble.
I understand. I used to do that a bit also. That's why I understand her, and I think, yes, thank you for your advice, because I really can sense that she has something with her family, but I don't want to get involved with that. And I think politely to ask to understand her is a great way to start. I completely forgot about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria, and thank you, Ajahn. Ajahn, I have a couple of questions in the chat. Can I read them for you?
Yeah, please go ahead, Chris.
Thank you. How do you resolve bad karma with, say, a sister? Do we resolve it by deciding to avoid her totally? And does falling out seriously with a parent, is it sometimes a cop-out for one's life's choices?
Yeah, so with the sister one doesn't get along with the sister so well. There could be 101 reasons, but as Buddhist people, we tend to be reasonable people, sensitive, reasonably kind, compassionate. We don't want to harm others. We don't want to harm ourselves in a general sense. But you don't get along with the sister for whatever reason. If you can't connect with her emotionally, if say for example, you've got to zero in on the emotions are key. You have to zero in on the feelings, the emotions that your sibling, your sister is going through, in order to understand where she's coming from, because it's driving her behaviour, the whole course of her life. It's feeling driven. So really focus on those emotions that she's going through, and from a distance try to understand where she's at, the kind of person she is, life experience, this and that. And you may possibly, similar thing, you may have to get her to tell you in your own way why she feels the way she does. Why she has this emotionally driven behaviour. If she's your sister, you know how to approach her without being too threatening, without being too rude, obnoxious and whatnot. She needs to tell you why she feels the way she does in order for you to understand where she's coming from, because the vast majority of us don't have psychic powers. We can't see inside people's minds. We can get a feeling sense, roughly, but it doesn't mean that we really understand them completely. You may have to get them to spell it out, how they feel about a particular situation or predicament or life experience. And if she cannot, if she can't play ball, she can't relate to you, if she can't explain or express where her emotionally driven behaviour is coming from, how she feels about her life experience. If she can't explain that to you and she can't reconcile with you on any level whatsoever, and she's still difficult, problematic, antagonistic, just keep her away from you. Don't connect with her. Don't speak to her too often. You make an effort. You make an effort with people, but if they don't want to play ball, if they really want to stir the pot and make trouble and create problems and antagonise and generally annoy the people around them in some kind of incredible way, just keep them at a distance. Don't speak to them. Don't relate to them. They can be a psychopath. They can be a narcissist. They can be incredibly jealous. They can be, provocative and annoying. It could be anything. It could be 101 things. But if you cannot, you can make an effort with a person. If you can't reconcile with them to the best of your ability, just essentially, detach and keep them at a distance. Because as soon as you connect with them, especially verbally speech, you start talking, start chatting with that individual, there's going to be trouble. If you know for a fact that she will not reconcile, the sister will not reconcile, she won't meet you halfway, she won't tell you, what the problem is and where it's coming from, she doesn't want to play ball, well, essentially, you disconnect and you cut them off. It might sound a bit extreme, but I'm 60 years of age, and that's the kind of attitude I have. In my position, I'm fairly easygoing. I can get along with the vast majority of people, but my attitude is, if you create problems with me or you screw with me on a major level, I'm going to cut you off. I'll cut you off for the rest of your life. And this is the kind of attitude I have. But for people within family, family members, you're going to have to make an effort. But the same thing, the same principle, it still stands. If you make a genuine effort and they just will not reconcile with you on any level, well, don't associate with them and don't contact them at all. I don't care. Like if you're like 30, 40, 50 years of age, if that person is troublesome, is problematic, you're actually by not connecting with them, you're actually undermining the karma between you. You're weakening the karma between you, because those feelings that you have between you are going to go on and on and on and on for the next 5, 10, 20 lifetimes. So this is why I had the attitude that I had, because I've seen it all. I've seen it all in these communities. Because you're working with very, very strong habits, behaviours, conditioning, family stuff, past life, all this kind of stuff. So you really make a genuine effort. If it doesn't work, you disconnect, because as soon as you disconnect, then that person becomes much, much less of, say, like a problem and a difficulty, and maybe eventually they might come around. So if we maintain a positive mentality, hopefully they might change. Maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years. But you're under no obligation to, what's the right word, to constantly extend yourself over and over and over and over again, 10, 20, 30 times, to try to appease this person, to please this person, to what's the right word, I can't think of the right words, to try to improve things and put their interests, to put their interests first, and to put them first, and hope they make a genuine effort and all this kind of stuff. You try to reconcile, doesn't work, just get the space and keep the space. Even if you have to keep the space 5, 10, 20 years, you owe them a touch. You owe them a little. If they're a sister or a brother, mum and dad, you owe them a lot, and you can really extend yourself with the parents to the best of your ability. But it's the same principle. You have to protect yourself. If you're dealing with disturbed people, you're dealing with people with parental issues, drug and alcohol issues, it still cuts the ice. You make an effort to the best of your ability, it doesn't work, you keep them at a distance, or you keep them out of your life completely in every way. Because, the stuff, the karma between you can just go on. It can go on for eternity. If you don't break through and realise, the Buddha's teachings through the enlightenment stages, those universal altering insights, that conditioning process, the behaviour, the feelings between you, the way you affect each other, that can go on for eternity. So it's not to be, what I say might sound a bit intense, but this is the reality. It can just go on and on and on for eternity. And very few of you, the vast majority of people with common sense, do not want to, have that in front of them, for God knows how many lives. It's just too insane. It's just too ridiculous to comprehend.
I'm 67, so we're not going to have 20 or 30 years, I don't think. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Does that, by disconnecting, I haven't spoken to her for a number of years, so it's a form of disconnecting, but I'm still emotionally attached, and I probably miss her more than me. She's my older sister. I miss having a sister, but jealousy and narcissism would be the prime things. I'm no match. I'm no match for her. And so how do you weaken the karma from continuing on?
Yeah, I mean, it's that same principle, because as soon as you engage the person, as soon as the person triggers you, because it's not just this life, it's multiple lifetimes. So you can have 1,001 things between you, not just the current life. So it's very, very complicated. You need incredible psychic ability to know and see these things, but you can do the user-friendly kind of principles. You can get YouTube tutorials how to work with and to deal with and relate with narcissists, narcissistic siblings, mum and dad. You can get yourself well educated, develop tools and techniques, but it doesn't mean that the relationship between you and your big sister is going to be hunky-dory, because these people, they're sneaky, they're tricky. They're not the average cat, the average individual who may be like reasonable. The average person is reasonable, but these people, they're game players. They're manipulative, narcissistic. All the little games and tricks that these people get up to within the mental health spectrum. But it's that same thing. If you cannot get them on board, if they don't understand you, if it doesn't improve, you just cut them off completely. If, say for example, you can give them a phone call. You've got to look at your level of tolerance, how much you're prepared to put up with. So if you feel that maybe if you give your big sister a phone call maybe I'm only guessing, every 3 months, 6 months, but that is your level of tolerance. Well, that's all well and good. If you know for a fact that you can only maybe chit-chat with her for 6 months and you're in a comfortable range with that, that's all well and good. You may not want to, you may be the kind of individual who just does not want to cut her stone dead, but you're quite prepared, give her a call every 3 to 6 months. But only you know where your personal boundaries and limits are. So what, that was another one with mum and... There was another question with mum and dad as well? Another one?
Yeah. That was sort of... that was slightly a different topic, really. It is and it isn't. But I'm just seeing a lot of blame going towards parents or parents.
Blame towards mum and dad. Is that right?
But usually the mother. But it is complicated by it. I sort of seeing it as it's a bit of a cop out, especially when drugs get involved. It's because there are so many people in our children's lives that can have an effect on them as well.
Mm.
But there's so much focus, obviously, I'm a mother, so on a mother, there's a lot of focus on being responsible for everything that goes on, rather than, you could only do what it comes down to intent, but kids don't know about intent. There's just so much talk about being at fault. You've done this or you've done that, and it's like you end up just getting overwhelmed by is someone blaming mum and dad, or are the kids blaming mum and dad currently? Josephine, I see a lot of it, not just for myself, but I do see a lot of it. And I also see drugs being involved. Not always, but drugs being involved as well. There's a lot of pressure put on you somehow having to be perfect, but the world is such a hard place. But it's like, when I say cop out, it's like it's being dropped onto mostly the mother, because the mother has mostly been in that caring role, mostly raising role of the children. fathers as well, but
the feeling I get, like I'm no expert at all, but when it comes to family members, people around you, you need to try to relate to them on an emotional level. So whatever, we can have all these psychological mechanisms and all these special words that we use to classify human behaviour, but the bottom line is emotion is key. So you've got to look at why the children blame. It's usually the children who blame the parents, not so much that the parents blame the children, in a general sense.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, most parents that I mean, the vast majority of parents I see usually do the best that they can with the resources that they have. But if a child blames his mother or his or her mother or father, you look at the situation. Why does the child feel this way? Emotionally, why is the behaviour driven this way? But the thing is that if the child is blaming and criticising and being unreasonable, well, mum and dad will just may have to set the boundaries. Say, look, don't disrespect me. I've done my best to raise you. I've gone without. I've compromised myself financially to raise you and put you through university. So, why don't you wake up and have some appreciation and some respect. So mum and dad can lay down the boundaries and then, explain things in significant detail why the child, shouldn't just blame mum and dad because it's the easiest thing to do, instead of looking at themselves. It can be very complicated. Sometimes mum and dad can be at fault, children can be at fault. You've got all this stuff with, all this nonsense, all this BS that you see on TikTok, that you see on all these social media platforms, people pretending to be something they're not, faking, impersonating, cosmetic surgery, all this kind of silly nonsense, which is false, which is fake. You're trying to project yourself to be someone that you're not. Not to say it possibly might be important. I don't want to provide, give a blanket, make a blanket statement. Sometimes it may be quite important to the young person. It might be important for their image, all the rest of it. As long as it doesn't harm you. In a nutshell, if you move in a certain direction and it harms you and it harms the people around you, then you've got to stop at that point. But in a nutshell, that's a good guide to protect yourself in general society. But, parents are well within their right. If the child's unreasonable, blaming mum and dad, you set the boundaries. You tell them, look, I do not understand why you have this attitude. I want you to tell me. I want you to explain and tell me what is going on an emotional level. And if the child keeps playing up, doesn't know where to stop, keeps crossing the line, you're going to have to tell them. And the parents have got to set boundaries, because the thing is that, mum and dad, from the day the child is born, they support, protect and nurture, providing emotional, financial support, family home, and whatnot, right till they're probably about at least 20 or even 30 or even 60 years of age. The older brother can still be with mum, living with mum at 60 years of age. So it's not to be underestimated. If the parents didn't provide the support and protection, the child, you're gone, you're finished. You can't, you look after yourself as a babe in arms. You're out in the wild, you're just gone. Parents. My father didn't mess around with myself and my brother. He just laid down, straight down. You can get out, just get out of my house, or this kind of thing. So, parents, you don't have any choice. You draw the line, you talk things through, if they keep going on and on and on, they keep blaming, they keep criticising. This and that. Like, so look, I have supported you for God knows how many years, 20, 30 years plus, even when your marriage is breaking down at 40 or 45, 50 years of age, I'm still supporting you, providing counsel, maybe financial support, all the rest of it. And if the child still does not have any respect, does not appreciate, doesn't recognise what the parents have done for you, my attitude is, look, I've made an effort to reconcile with you on whatever level. You just you don't understand, you can't accept, you still don't have any respect or appreciation for mum and dad. Well, if you don't like it, just you get out. No, you don't have to use these particular words. You can find, if you're not happy with here, if you're not happy with the level of support that I'm giving you, whatever mum and dad is doing with supporting the children, if you're not happy about this, you go and find yourself somewhere else to live. And then when you're on the not necessarily on the breadline, when you don't have much money to work with, when you're having difficulties with the people that you share house with, because they're not going to tolerate your nonsense. If you're sharing a house with someone and you start playing up, your people, they're going to let you know because they're paying rent. If you're sharing with 2 to 3 people plus even 4 people, and one of the members in the household is complaining and whinging and is unclean, doesn't do the dishes, doesn't mop the floor, it just lives like a pig in the household. Their compatriots, the people they share with, they're going to tell you straight up. So, that same principle, draw the boundaries, talk things through. If they won't listen to you, if they don't understand, they keep whinging, complaining, this and that, fault finding. I don't need you here. If you're not happy here, just you go find yourself somewhere else to live, and basically, go play ball with someone else because I'm not interested.
Well, that's been a very interesting evening, Ajahn. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for your questions. It's been a very interesting evening. Ajahn, would you like to just leave us with a blessing? Would you be happy to offer us that?
No problem at all, Chris.
That would be lovely.
Okay.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Sabitio vivajantu, sabarogo vinasatu, Mache bhawan wandarayo, sukhiti gayuko bhava, abhivajana silisa nicha, bodhapachayino, chataro dhamma vadanti, ayuvano sukham balam. Thank all you guys for turning up tonight and having fun together.
There's all 52 of us tonight, Ajahn.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Much appreciated. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you, Ajahn.
See you later. Take care.
Chris, did you say you too?
Thank you very much, Ajahn.